Hello,
Hello.
can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, yeah. Nice to see you. Are
You?
you ready to begin the interview?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, should be okay. I have a few questions for you. Sure. Um, I'm a cat working for Acta Infernalis. So first of all, hello and thank you for your time. How are you?
Yeah, not bad, Had a full day of work and now doing this promo stuff, so busy, busy.
I understand perfectly. I also had a full day of work behind me and I'm a bit tired, to be honest. My second question is, sorry, could you introduce the band Aborted without using the usual label of musical styles like death, grind, and others? Um,
All right. So the band literally sounds like if you take a huge ass bulldozer and you put a Formula One engine in it and then you let it roll over a whole bunch of fucking people on the street, that's literally what you would get. So I'd say that it's brutal, it's horrific, but it's also fun.
yeah, well, I wasn't waiting for an answer like this, but it's perfect.
Thank
And
you.
totally agree with you. Really, the best answer I had. Because sometimes when I ask this question, people are, oh yeah, black metal. No, no, no. We want something different. So,
There you go.
my third question is Vault of Horrors, the band 12th album, comes out next month. How do you feel about it? You had a world premiere at the 70,000 tons cruise. How is the feedback yet?
Well, so far everything's cool, so we're very excited. So far, I think it's doing really well with people so far. I mean, there's always your haters, but if you don't have haters, you're doing something wrong. So, you know, it's better to have some reaction than no reaction. To be honest, if people are ambivalent about it, then that's much worse than people hating it, if you ask me. But we're very excited. We're very happy about the record. We think it sounds great. It was great to work together with a lot of really cool people on this album. We spent a lot of time writing it and recording it actually this time. The 70,000 tons reactions were good. We did not only like a showcase where we played like 4 songs off the album on stage. Stressful since we're not a band that can rehearse, so we kind of had to rehearse and sound check in Mexico before. But it went well. People dug it. I think the reaction was really cool, and we also had like a exclusive album listening party at the cruise. So there was a good amount of people in there in the bar and chilling and talking about the album. So it was really cool.
Pretty nice. Yeah. I think you'd be happy to read that
Yeah, yeah,
with
we're
the
stoked.
reactions and so on.
Hmm.
Mm, Another question is, how would you sum up Vault of Horrors in only 3 words? And please don't use the title.
Okay, let me think here. Uh, brutal, fast, technical.
Quite, yes. To be honest, I listened the album before the interview. And my preferred song is Hellbound. I'm not sure why. It's just, yeah, I like this one.
Cool.
Hmm. So Vault of Horrors is coming out 3 years after Mania Cult. Did you notice any changes or evolution in your creative process?
I mean, there's a new guy in the band, so obviously there's something new there. He wrote, I think, 60% of the record. But in general, I wouldn't say there's a big change in how we write songs, due to the fact that everybody's, located everywhere in the world. We get one guy in Iceland, one guy in Belgium, and then two guys in California. So we don't really get to jam and do any of that stuff. So we do everything, pre-productions in Cubase, send ideas back and forth, and then that's it. The main difference, I think, with this record is that we actually spent, like, I want to say, a good 3-4 full days before recording with the producer at the studio, going over the songs, changing, structures. He was involved in making sure every song is as satisfying as it can get. So I think that was the main difference with previous albums.
Oh, okay. Thank you for your answer. Sorry. The album was created after the period of break linked to the COVID. Did the comeback of the live show have an impact on its creation?
No, but I would say that it definitely had an impact that we released an album during COVID, and we weren't able to tour for it until everything was kind of over.
Yes.
Europe, I feel, is still kind of recovering, to be honest. Whereas in the US, everything has been active much more before, which is why we already did 2 US tours. And we haven't really toured Europe yet. So we will for this album. We're also very excited to see, how it's going to be. But very different Europe and US when it comes to post-COVID, to be honest.
Okay, that's the first time I'm hearing about that. It's quite interesting. So an interesting question. On the album, you have one guest singer for each track, which is quite a lot. How did you get in touch with each of the vocalists, and how did the collaboration go?
Well, we kind of wanted to do something unique, as we do with every album. We have the retarded pre-orders usually, or do something special. So this time around, since every song is also about a different movie, and it's dealing, sonically with very different universes, I figured it would be cool to have, emphasize that with extra guests. There's been bands that have done, the multiple guests on one song, but nobody's ever done, at least in metal, has done like a guest on every song in an album. So, something new, plus adding a lot more variation, I think, because everybody sounds very different from each other. And all these people I have been, people that we've known for a really long time, we've been friends with. Some people, even like Alex from Despise Icon, I've known since 2003, which is more than 20 years now. Crazy. And then, you have your newer guys like Johnny from Carcosa, or Hal from Engulf. So those are, people we've met the last couple of years, Ben from Shadow Intent. So it's a bit of a mixture of kind of like old friends and new friends. So it was very easy to set up, honestly.
Even with the distance between the different vocalists and so on?
Yeah, there's this crazy thing called the internet, and you can like do crazy shit on it, like send files and all that. Everybody recorded at their own thing. I think some people recorded at home. Some guys went to the studio and then just sent everything to Dave Otero, and he had a lot of work making everything, fit together in the template, because obviously every recording was different in settings or conditions or whatnot. So he had to kind of like prep it to fit whatever was there. But yeah, I mean, internet.
I know I'm working in IT, so the band also collaborated with Spencer Cregan, hope I pronounced correctly, Cregan, sorry, on the orchestration, making the album more majestic, in my opinion, on my friend opinion. That's not my question. How did you work with him to give each track his own personality?
So we gave him complete creative freedom, really. Spencer is someone who is the actual composer. He writes musical scores to horror movies, TV shows, and all that kind of stuff. He also had worked on Carnifex's last album. But he got recommended to us by a friend called Brad, and I just had a call with him and explained to him that we didn't want anything orchestral or like, black metal or Dimmu Borgir sounding, and by the lack of a word, not that there's anything wrong with Dimmu Borgir, of course, but we just wanted a specific different sound. We told him, like, every song's about a different movie, so try to like capture that essence and get the spirit of each song in there. So he really did his own thing and then accentuated parts and delved into the soundtracks of those movies to kind of like see what is it going on in there and how can I make it fit in this band, because some of the stuff was a little harder. Like if you look at Condemned to Rot, which was based on the movie Return of the Living Dead, the soundtrack is very poppy electro, but that is very outside of our world, so we had to kind of find ways to kind of make that work, but he did, so that's really cool.
And the result is good. Great.
Yeah, he did an amazing job. We're very happy with it.
Yes. And I know it is a tough question, but do you have a favorite track on this album, or the one that came most naturally to you?
I think that really depends on the day. It changes, you listen to the album and you're like, your favorite track kind of switches. At least that's how it is for me. I think at the time right now it's probably The Shape of Hate, because the Halloween theme is really well worked in there, and it kind of has everything. It's got heavy breakdown, it's got super techie parts, it's got melody, and it's got some super fucking shredding solo, and then we got Ollie from Archfire doing some insane fast fucking stuff that will probably kill me live, but yes.
And awesome. I saw your smile. You seems to really like this one.
I like all of them, but yeah.
Yeah, but I see that you are really proud of your work, and yeah, it's really good.
Thank you.
How did you discover extreme metal, and more specifically, the death metal scene at the time? And in your opinion, what are the must-have bands on the current scene?
That's tough. But how did I discover it? It's pretty easy. I mean, back in the day, we had a whole like metal was pretty popular in the town that I came from, or the high schools, around here. So I became friends with a lot of people that were into that kind of stuff, and you kind of go from there. Getting to know everything. CD stores were obviously a big thing, in the past. You'd go every Friday after school with your allowance from your parents and see how many CDs you can buy that you like, and discover things that way, pre-internet and all that. And how did I discover death metal? Well, a bunch of friends of mine from the area had a local band, and I'd go to their practice and whatnot, and that's kind of like how I discovered death metal through local band, and then before and after practices we'd listen to the new albums that came out as a group. I still remember discovering Obituary with World Demise when it came out, or Death, all that kind of stuff. It was a good time. It was cool.
Yeah, you make me envious, because when I discovered that, I was feeling like a freak. So, I'm just a bit younger than you, but it was on a small town.
Yeah, I mean, it's different. It's every period has its advantages and disadvantages. It was harder to discover new bands because you discover them through magazines or whatever. Now everything is very easily available. but it's also easy to get lost because there's so much. And you know, the magic of holy shit, there's a new album coming out from that band is like kind of
Yes.
less than it used to be, if that makes sense.
Maybe. But that leads us to the second part of my question, that in your opinion, what are the must-have bands on the current scene?
It really depends on the style because there's, you know, so many subgenres, subdivisions, you know, to metal, death metal, whatnot, deathcore and all that shit. So it really depends.
Focus on the death metal scene.
Thank you. Nobody can get around Cannibal Corpse, obviously. I mean, that's like a gateway band for everybody, I think. You know, everybody
Yes.
knows Cannibal Corpse, you know, listens to death metal. You can like them or not. I mean, you know, it's you can say whatever you want, but they are the gateway band for this kind of music.
I
I
agree
think
totally
them.
with you.
Mhm. So I think definitely them. But it honestly, it's kind of hard, you know. It's kind of hard to. The scene is very fragmented, and to see like what bands are must-haves these days. I'm biased because I'd say Suffocation as well for me was a very big part and still is. Entombed, which you know obviously doesn't really exist anymore, but they were definitely one of the, I think, founders of this kind of style. So for me, it's really the classic bands when it comes to death metal.
I agree. Yeah. Um, uh, so sorry, I'm really a bit tired because of my treatments. Uh, you're the only member of the band who's been here for the beginning. How do you see Aborted evolution in retrospect? How do you choose the musician who would join the band?
Well, I mean that's evolved over the years, obviously. You know, shit happens, life happens. Sometimes people don't want to tour. Sometimes people don't really fit in the band. So let me just answer your question with this. If I could go back in time and tell younger me what to look out for, I would say mainly look for the right people and not just the right musicians. I think that's the most important, and it doesn't matter where they're from because if you look at the band now, we're very happy. We've been for a very long time, and it's got people from all over the place. So it really doesn't matter. It's just finding the right individuals to, you know, share your passion with.
Who fit together?
Yeah. Mhm.
I understand. I know there is a tour planned for March with Carnifex, as you said just before, but do you have any other plans for the rest of Aborted?
Yeah. So after that, we're going to go to the US and Canada for a tour again in June. And after that, we'll be doing some festivals in Europe in August. So after that, we're still planning, but until like the end of August, we're set.
Only in August for Europe?
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, we're doing the tour now, but you know, March we're doing a tour throughout Europe, and then you know, August we're doing the festivals.
yeah, I didn't check the date for France, but I maybe not available at that time. I'm not sure. So, and I'm going to the Hellfest.
There you go. No Hellfest this year. We did it last year, but
Yeah, I know. Uh, it was really cool.
thank you.
Sorry. Another question. 08. Do you have time? Maybe.
Yeah, sure. I have time.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I'm a really cat girl, so I have 3 cats at home.
All right, two.
Great. I know the pain. So it's a question. How do you feel about the transition to live show with Aborted? You also have other projects. a live show different from your point of view?
How do you mean? Are the Aborted live shows different from my other bands, or what do you mean exactly?
To be honest, I didn't write most of the questions, so about this one, I'm not sure. But I think that maybe yes, it's different from your other bands.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, this is very different. I mean, the only other band I still have is Coffin Feeder, and it's different in the way that Aborted's a lot more complex. There's also a lot more production involved, whereas Coffin Feeder is, still like a young new band, so we don't have the budget that Aborted has for live shows. So, we're Coffin Feeder, we just have a sound engineer. Aborted has production live and a light engineer, and all that kind of stuff. So it's different in that way. Other than that, not so different because both bands are still pretty extreme. One is a bit more on the groovy, like I don't know, also kind of hardcore side, I guess. Whereas Aborted is a lot more intense. But I mean, for me, it's not all that different. It's just kind of like the getting to experience again the new band coming up versus I know what I'm getting and what to expect with Aborted.
I think that a good answer, to be honest. As I said, I'm working with Mathieu, but sometimes I'm doing some questions, but he do most of the questions, so
Mhm.
I'm not sure. I wasn't sure for this one. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Next question is, are there any musicians or artists you would like to collaborate with in the future?
I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, I'm so busy with this stuff already that it's hard to know. I know Coffin Feeder is working on a record, and we have some really interesting guests coming on that, but I can't really tell you yet. But we just did an album with a guest on every song, so I don't know, man.
Yes, but it's more on the future. Maybe
Yeah, I don't know.
some. No?
I don't know. I mean, we've just done this, so
Yeah,
honestly, haven't really began to think about what's next.
I can understand. Focus on the moment, maybe after.
Yeah,
Do you think you have improved as a musician and a singer with this album?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, I've put a lot of work in, and this is definitely the album I put the most time in recording. But also, spend a lot of time getting to know my body and my voice a bit more, learning a bit more about technique. Because when I started, there was no YouTube, there was no how to scream or whatever. So you just kind of discovered yourself and get to know it as you go along. Whereas a lot of these kids these days they have the advantage that there's coaches out there, there's people that are specialized in this kind of stuff. So on this album, I also kind of worked together with David Benitez, who from the Extreme Vocal Institute helped me with a bunch of warm-ups for the sessions, some advice and stuff like that. So definitely, I would say I've done what I can to level up.
Okay, cool. Really. I have not a tricky question, but that's a question I like to ask when doing an interview because it's quite fun. And
Okay.
so, what dish would you compare Aborted music to? Like meals or something like that?
Okay. I'd say a hot ass fucking burrito.
Burrito?
Yeah, we
Oh,
got two Californians in there. We love Mexican food and our music's spicy as shit, so there you go.
quite. Yeah. Ah. I never had this answer before. So thank you. Two more questions. Which band do you dream of playing with? I will leave you to imagine a Vault of Horror release date with Aborted as opener and 3 other bands.
Oof,
Yes,
oof, that's hard. I mean, if it comes to Vault of Horrors and like getting like a old death metal like kind of, you know what? I'm fuck it. I'm not gonna stick it to death metal. Just artists that would be insane to
whatever
play
you
with.
want.
Yeah, okay. So number one, Dio, and it makes no sense, but I don't care. But it would be awesome. Then I
Yes,
could see Dio, you know. Number two, let's see. Slayer.
classic.
Mm-hmm. And if we go to death metal, I'd say probably Cannibal Corpse. I think because it fits perfectly with the whole imagery and everything.
Yes. I'm not surprised, to be honest, by the last two. Just Dio was, oh, okay. But yeah, I can understand.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my last question. Thank you for your availability, for your time, and for answering my stupid questions.
No
And
problem.
really, that was a good moment with you. And the last words are yours. Whatever
Okay,
you
well,
want to say to French people,
all right. Whatever I want to say to French people, so maybe I should say it in French.
if you want, if you prefer.
Ok, bah, merci pour l'interview et je dirais, bah, j'espère de voir tout le monde en concert quand on est en tournée avec Carnifex en mars.
Non mais, on a pu la faire en français.
Eh ben oui, on aurait pu, ouais. Mais t'as commencé en anglais, donc.
Oui, j'ai une journée de boulot en anglais dans les pattes, je ne parle que anglais. Puis aborté. Ah bah oui, je viens de regarder. Belge.
Longue journée.
Merci. Je sais même
De
pas
rien.
comment réagir.
Non, mais ton visage valait la peine, c'est bon.
Rien. Ok, c'est parfait. Merci.
Voilà. De rien et bonne soirée. À la prochaine.
Ouais, bah, je vais me coucher pas très tard parce que
Je pense. Ça serait bien. Allez, bonne nuit.
Merci.
Salut.
Jean-Claude.